Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today I am represent the clan Lin Kuei. So, we are going to be talking about the Shirai Ryu and why they are a bunch of pansies that deserve to be wiped out and murdered from the planet. But, when we also are going to talk about is the movie Mortal Kombat, the 2021 version. We are going to be going into spoiler territories, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it and check it out, then come back and watch our video. And then you can see me being a ninja. But before anything else, excuse me, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, I'm going to take this down so that I can actually breathe and talk. Um, yeah, I, so I didn't watch the original before this one, the 1995 film, I think. But I had the memories of that movie, and my memories of that film were that it's not a good movie, but there's fun parts to it, and I think that's gonna be my memory of this film too.
Interesting. Okay, so my thing is that I absolutely 100% do not remember the first one because I only watched it like one time long ago when how old were we? Like 7?
Yeah, like 6 or 7. Yeah.
So I basically as good as didn't see it. And I watched the new one before watching the old one. So that, oh, by
Yep.
the way, we might spoil the old one too. So if you haven't seen that one, I guess you could go watch that one too. um, so I basically went into watching the new one without any background, I guess you could say. Because I didn't really play the game either. Actually, I don't think I've ever played Mortal Kombat before. So all I know is that it's a fighting game, and I may have heard some of the phrases before, like "finish
Over here.
him," "get
I
over here," stuff like that. So I thought that I wasn't expecting much from the movie because I was like, "How good can it be?" Like I didn't know what like the story was gonna be, but I actually found the beginning of the movie to be really interesting and beautiful, and it's really hard to focus with the faces that Chris is making.
you so much. I was gonna talk about that, but continue.
But I think like that was literally the best and probably only good part of the movie.
Oh my god! I didn't know how you were gonna feel about this movie, but we agree.
I thought you like it when we disagree.
But I mean, I was expecting us to disagree on this one. I thought you were gonna come in and being like, "Yo, this movie's amazing," and I was just like, "Yo, this movie is bull." This movie's bad. It's really bad. But there are some good parts, and the good parts that I loved about the movie were my boy Bihan or Bihan, played by my boy Joe Taslim. And this dude Sub Zero is doing too much. He is doing way too much in this movie. He is on that next level gangster status, and I love it. I like when you see him and he freezes Jax's arms and then he stretches them out, but then gets in Jax's face and just looks him in the eye like I want you to know that I'm hurting you. Yo, this man was on something else. I couldn't hang with him. Um, and Kano had me rolling. I loved Kano, and like and then my enjoyment for the movie starts to like waver a lot. But I'm with you. I thought the beginning of the movie with the conflict that they were building, they got my boy Hiroyuki, Hiroyuki Sanada. I always get him confused with Hiroyuki Sawano, who does music, but of something else. But anyway, Hiroyuki Sanada, they got him to play Hanzo Asashi, and I'm thinking, oh great, he's gonna be a great Scorpion. I can't wait. And when they build that conflict at the beginning, I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. But then he doesn't show up until the end of the movie as a summon. So we're gonna get into some of this other like ridiculous stuff in an already ridiculous storyline. But I mean, yeah, I cut you off, but continue. What else were you thinking about it?
About the beginning, I just
I mean, about just in general, yeah, like going on from the beginning onwards.
right. I mean, I like it just because I wasn't expecting much. When I saw the opening, I was like, "Wow, this looks so good. It looks so interesting." It got me excited for the rest of the movie. And then they let me down. But like, I mean, I guess like as the movie went on and then we got our first like exposition from Sonia, I was like, okay, I guess here we go. I mean, what else are they to do? I guess I shouldn't have expected more from them than to have a whole bunch of exposition. But I think what I was kind of missing, and again, this is coming from someone that like has like no Mortal Kombat background. I wanted to
Right.
see more stuff from what's his name? Raken?
Or Raiden, depending
Raiden?
on where you come from.
The guy with the cool hat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
like
electricity guy. Yeah,
he
that's
looked
Lord Raiden.
he looked cool. I feel like I wanted more from him. It just seemed like he didn't really do anything except for put up a border. I thought the combat was cool. Like just the action scenes were really cool, but I feel like that's what they were putting most of their focus in. But I am actually like okay, I guess because that's what Mortal Kombat is, right? It's a fighting game, so you would think that the movie would have a lot of fighting in it and then have a lot of exposition to carry the plot, I guess. I mean, I don't think it was 100% necessary. I think they could have still put some effort in there, and there was a couple of weird things that happened like why Cole would voluntarily go home when he knows that going home would put his family in danger, and then sure enough Prince
What
Goru
happens?
shows up and like kicks their butts.
Oh my god. Like
That
that was
just
the most inane decision that was made in that movie. And then there was one point in that movie where I legitimately was like, yo, I know this movie's only an hour and 50 minutes, but why does it feel so long right now? And then the person I was watching with looked at me and said, it's because we spent the last 50 minutes at one location. And I was like, oh, you're right though. We get to that when the moment they get to the temple, the rest of the movie just is basically at that temple up until like the last part of the movie, which is all the fights, the excuse to have everybody throw down. Um, I so what's interesting about the movie is that they have a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of attention to detail, or at least like lore from the game. So you see characters reference like Nightwolf. He's drawn on there. He's drawn like in a drawing on Sonya's wall. There's another character that's from the more recent games called Kotal Khan, who has a statue in his image in one of like the temples that they're when they're going there. So like there's a lot of, and then like you see Shao Kahn, who's like one of the big bags of Outworld or whatever. So like you have like these cool references, and it has a good cast overall. I really enjoy the cast overall, but it just it starts to really just fall flat the further you get into the movie.
mm-hmm.
Um, the action and the fatalities are great. The cheesy one-liners, I it might be because I'm older now. They bother me more in this movie than they did in the original movie, because at least in the original movie, I remember they were in a tournament and they had someone watching the tournament. So when someone does something, having the person watching the tournament say fatality or flawless victory, like that made sense to me. But when Kung Lao rides a chick and literally like cuts her in half and then puts his hat on and says flawless victory for himself, it made me roll my eyes. Like I visibly rolled my eyes. It really bothered me. And I am okay with some cheese, but I couldn't get past that.
Yeah, that was weird to me as well. But I just kind of figured like, oh, that must be from the game. And
I mean, it is, but
yeah,
yeah.
I think that the like going back to what you said about the first movie, like the original movie, how They're basically in a tournament. It's it. I kind of liked how they just kept everyone like regular, and they didn't have to have this whole like montage of and waiting period for everyone to develop powers. Like that just seemed, now that I know, because when I watched it, the 2021 one, I was like, I guess they have to spend time to like squeeze in this power developing thing, because how else are they gonna do it? And then I watched the 1995 one, and I was like, they didn't even have to do that. Then why did they waste so much time with like, you know, I, so I was kind of talking about how, um, in for the Justice League movies, the Whedon one versus the Snyder one. Like the
Yeah.
Snyder one was cool because we got to spend more time showing more things happen, but the Whedon version didn't have the luxury, so they had to speed through everything. So it kind of felt like they they basically forced having to speed through everything in this one, where when they didn't have to do it, if that makes sense.
Right. No, no, I get you. I get what you're saying there. Um, I think that one of the other things that just generally bothered me about this movie is that, like, it they don't need to have that explanation. That is an explanation made up for the movie. The whole thing of having this birthmark that looks like a dragon, which seems okay, fine. And then the idea that then you have to kind of unlock your power, and so Kano's is laser eyes, whereas in the story of the game, his face gets messed up and he gets a metallic Terminator like replacement, and then he shoots lasers out of those eyes. Everybody just has powers because this is a world where people have powers, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that you have to kind of like get angry or like connect with what your arcana is so that you can unlock it, and then that's how you get your powers and now you can fight. I mean, it felt unnecessary. um and I'll get into more of this when we get like off of this channel, we get off stream. But how Jax finds his arcana, that was one of those ones where I was really like, oh my gosh, roll my eyes. But the other thing is also that like we are basically not in a tournament. So we're not doing a tournament. There's no reason for one-on-ones. This is basically a street fight. It's really a street fight. So I have more problems with them, with the villains at least, not leaning into it. I get that um, Raiden calls all of the uses powers to like bring all the combatants to like one arena, but once they're there, there's literally no reason to fight one on one because we're just trying to kill you guys. It is not an official tournament, so anything goes, no holds bar, and so like so that was a little kind of like, okay, I wanted a tournament, we didn't get one, but why are you guys, at least the villains, acting like we are in a tournament? We really need to just be straight up murdering everybody. It doesn't need to be a fair fight. We're trying to kill you. That's the point. And then then my last biggest issue was how the main character Cole, who is made for the purposes of this movie, who is not a character from the games, has literal plot armor. That is his power. They literally gave him the power of plot armor, and I cannot explain how much that irritated me.
It was one of the things that was weird for me was how like they talk about the tournament and everything, but then we never have the tournament, and like they make the tournament be like a big deal, and you would think that they would at some point end up being in the tournament. Like, can you imagine if they just didn't have the whole Arcana thing, and then just like had like a row with the bad guys, so to say, and then
Yeah.
they end up doing the tournament anyway and then win the tournament? That would have been a much more interesting movie. But I
Yeah,
guess
and I
like
guess they
the
decided not to do the tournament because I guess they didn't want to like do what the old movie did before. But at the same time, the tournament, it's the Mortal Kombat tournament.
yeah, right. And I guess like it kind of also like you completely forget about the opening scene because like it doesn't really matter. It
Matter.
doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the story until like the very end to explain why Scorpion comes back.
And that is irritating because Scorpion coming back is also the way it's framed in the movie is not of Scorpion's own volition. It is because he's basically summoned by the blood of his ancestor when his ancestor grabs the spear of Hanzo Hasashi. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but it takes away that kind of connection with the rivalry between Hanzo and Bihan. So like I want to see like when they show that at the beginning, like the Lin Kuei versus the Shinrai Ryu. Like, why do they have their rivalry? What is this about? How did Bihan like all of a sudden live for literal centuries? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how he became a like a warrior for Outworld, or how did freaking Hanzo Asashi basically allow himself or allow his hatred to like make it so that he could wield the flames of hell itself. Like these are all things that I think would have made more a more interesting movie, and to even play with that rivalry with Scorpion and Sub Zero. I feel like they really probably should have had at least three altercations between the two of them in that movie in order to play up that rivalry, and then we get to the end. But because that doesn't happen, when we do get to their ending conflict also kind of falls flat because we just spent this whole movie dealing with nothing related to the first opening like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seemed very. There's like a weird flow, and like I feel like they were definitely trying to do too many things. It just was like
Mm-hmm.
I like I said I completely forgot about the beginning until the end of the movie. But I didn't even
Yeah.
remember the beginning of the movie because I was like they were fighting, and the last fight was like cool at some points, but then it was also kind of weird at other points because like in the like you think that the three of them are gonna fight each other, but then it's just Scorpion versus Sub Zero, and then Scorpion like gets knocked down, and then you see Cole punching his family
Nice.
member out, and then being like, oh, now I gotta fight Sub Zero. But I thought it was gonna be like two versus one, but then yeah, that was just weird.
Yeah, and that would have been more interesting. Also, I call shenanigans on that because there is literally no reason why Sub-Zero would begin the movie by literally murdering this dude's family before he could get there, and all of a sudden now leave Cole's family alive. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's literally no reason for that character to do that. So, like, he really could have just killed them and just been like, yeah, now I'm going to kill you the same way he did in the beginning of the movie. So the fact that they live feels more like a contrivance for the movie trying not to be super dark than it does for an actual motivation for that villain at that moment. Um, and yeah, like I can agree with what Straker Man was saying in the chat about like the rivalry being overdone. I mean, you could say the tournament itself is overdone, but that's part of what makes Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat. I don't think the entire movie needs to be about that, but those two characters are connected by a rivalry. So if you're going to like touch on that story, then do the whole thing or don't do it at all. You know, like it's about these two characters having this rivalry for Sub Zero and Scorpion. And if you're going to like imply that rivalry in the beginning, then it needs to have more of a payoff at the end. And the whole movie doesn't need to be that, but if you're going to step into that world, then you have to at least address it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely needed to just pick something and then go with that, and then maybe throw in a little bit of other stuff. But there was definitely too much. There was too much going on. They were definitely trying to do too many things.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I
no,
did like the characters though. I really liked
yes,
like Kano was really funny at times, but
yeah,
then he was also really irritating.
that's fair.
And I didn't know he was a bad guy. But I also
Yeah,
wasn't surprised that he became a bad guy.
right. Yeah, like I have to say, I agree. I like the characters. Luke Kane seemed like he was high to me. Is it just me, or did he seem like he was on something? Like when he was going through that movie, he seemed like he was out of it. I don't know what it was with that actor or whatever, but he didn't seem all there.
I feel like he didn't get enough time. Like he didn't get like they didn't spend enough time developing his character. Cuz I was just like, who is this guy? Like cuz I like I said, I didn't watch the first one yet. And so I was just like, I don't know who this guy is. He must be like a sub character or whatever. Like he's just a whatever guy that happens to be there. But then I watched the 1995 one and I was like, wow. why why did they make up this Cole guy? Why didn't they just stick with Liu Kang?
Hey, yeah, the actor, by the way, is ripped as hell. Oh my God.
Yeah, and he looks just like the older character or like the other actor. Like
Oh
they
yeah,
look
the
really
original actor.
similar. Yeah, that was pretty good casting. Um but the 1995 one, like he didn't have fireballs and stuff, and he was much cooler than the 2021 one with the fire. And I'm like, what? Because they made him seem so like whatever and weak when he was supposed to be like really top notch because he was the one training the other three. But
Right.
like for some reason, like those two guys, Liu Kang and the I forget his name,
Kung
the other
Lao.
guy,
Kung Lao, that's his name.
right?
The guy with that.
Yeah, they just didn't seem as cool and as strong when I think they should have been the strongest.
Yeah. So I also like. I think Kung Lao was cool, but my problem with it was because he was getting so much cool factor. I was like, you're gonna be the one that dies in this group because there had to be at least one person in the group that dies. Um, And so since he was so cool and getting so much to do, I was like, it's gonna be you. And for me personally, I am tired of seeing Kung Lao die for the sake of Liu Kang and other characters because spoiler alert for video games real briefly, but that's the same kind of thing that happens in the video games with that character, for that storyline. Um, but there are a lot of characters that die in those games, so you could say it's all fair, but every time I see Kung Lao in anything, it feels like his sole purpose is to be the Uncle Ben to Liu Kang's Peter Parker, and that that bothers me because I think Kung Lao is cool, and this is one of the first times he's been on screen. So to see him be able to be on screen and to do that fatality, and to see him going in on, oh my gosh, that scene where he and Liu Kang were going in on Kano, I was dying. I was laughing so hard. I love that scene. They are just being so mean to this man, and it's beautiful. Oh, my heart. I love it.
I really liked when they did the sweeping kick.
Oh my gosh.
That
So
was
yeah,
that was like the best.
yes, that was the best because that was a reference to the video game where people like would just do spam sweep over and over again. So
Gotcha.
there are like little moments. The fatalities you see are fatalities that are from the actual games that they did. Like Kano does his fatality to Reptile. Same thing with Jax, and same thing with everybody. They like Liu Kang, Kung Lao's is straight out of the video games too. So that stuff is kind of cool too. I'll give it that. Can I just go out and say though, not impressed with this remix for the Mortal Kombat theme.
Didn't they just reuse it?
They changed it a little bit, and it's weaker.
It's
It's
not up to date.
it's much weaker. Like I don't think I mean you probably just can't mess with that original Mortal Kombat theme. Like so good that even the video games were using it in their advertising. But this movie tried to do its own like kind of spin on it, and I didn't feel hype. It didn't hit me. So I found that to be a little disappointing.
Yeah, I wasn't very fond of it either. It definitely worked better in the 90s movie, but because it's, you know, 90s. I definitely think they should have tried to do something new with it to match the new, I guess, theme, the new, like, feeling of the movie, because it's definitely, like, less fun, I guess you could say. Like, it just seemed more serious than the 1995 one, so the upbeat music didn't really work.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Um, but yeah, I mean, maybe there's just find a way to strike that balance. But I mean, I guess in the next movie they'll probably try to actually do a real tournament. Um, but yeah, I have to say that this is one of the movies I was excited about watching this year, and it kind of let me down. I feel like more and more I'm seeing that it basically feels impossible to make a good Mortal Kombat movie. And even like they made a web series, like a live action web series a couple of years back, and season one of that series is great, and then season two just kind of falls flat. So yeah, it just feels a little bit. It feels a little challenging. So I was disappointed. There are parts. The thing that made the movie more fun for me was the fact that I was able to talk about the movie badly while watching it, and so I had more of a good time. But I think that if I had paid money to go see this movie in theaters during the time of Corona, so I literally risked catching coronavirus to go and watch this movie, I think I would have been pissed.
I feel like I wasn't expecting much from it originally, but then it got hyped up, and then after watching it, I'm like, oh, it's definitely just, another one of those, like, doing a remake for the sake of doing a remake and making money off of a franchise without putting very much effort into making it into a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie should actually really be on our other show.
Oh man, yes, yes, yeah, that's true. But hey, man, they're all under Warner Brothers, and there's a Mortal Kombat versus DC like fighting game, so maybe we'll get a Mortal Kombat versus the Justice League movie one day.
Ooh. Oh boy. I don't know if I could do the show long enough for that. When we get there, I'll be like, I don't want to do the show anymore.
Like I think we're done. I think we're done. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I appreciate some of the call outs to some of the um some of the lore in the game and some of the things in the game, like we talked about, like the sweeps or like the characters and like the fatalities. That stuff I appreciated. I didn't necessarily appreciate the inclusion of a character that was made up for the movie specifically. I thought his power was lame, especially in comparison to what everyone else is doing. And I also didn't like the fact that they had to basically unlock their arcana. Um, and everybody had one except for we'll get into this more off stream. We had a running joke in the movie that there can only be one woman in the movie at any given point in time. So whenever another woman showed up, we were just like, there can only be one. That one dies. And now another woman shows up. There can only be one. They put the two of them against each other. And it's just like, yo, Sonya, you don't have a mark. You gotta go. You can't be here. Or I mean, I guess you can be here. You don't have to go home, but
But you're a
you can't be
liability.
like, yeah, you're a liability. You can't be in the ring. This is a boys' club right now. So yeah, get to stepping. You want to have dinner with us? We'll let you cook.
Oh man. I definitely liked her better in the first movie.
Oh my gosh! Oh, it's like yo, poor Sonya. It's all right though. Oh man. Oh gosh, but yeah. Anyway, though, but that's everything. That's everything for me. I have more I want to say, but we'll say it during the Twitch stream.
Right. Yeah, we could um yeah. Well, to respond to Strika, yeah, it is weird that she gets randomly kidnapped and stuff in the first movie, but they just didn't give her enough like uh strength in this movie. I mean, they kind of did, but it definitely felt like they had a chance to have a strong female character in a big role, but they really like took her away for most of the movie. And I think that's the difference, because in the first one she's just like guns ablazing at the very beginning, and she's like real tough and everything in the beginning, and then it gets weird at the end where they just do this weird like 90s damsel in distress thing. But I mean, it's 90s, like. But yeah, that's it for me. We can talk more about it later, but yeah, go ahead, take us out.
All right. So yeah, and if you guys ever want to see, you can watch full versions of our stream on Twitch. So come and check us out when we're doing that. Where we allow ourselves to cut loose a little bit more, so that we don't have to be as kind as we are on YouTube, because we have to be. We're being careful with the things that we say sometimes. So come and check us out some, come check us out over there on Twitch. Join our Discord. But we're gonna wrap it up here. And have you seen the movie? What'd you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.